Once the future was a shared dream, a promise of progress, of equality, of democracy unshaken. But promises break. Power is no longer in the hands of the many. It's consolidating into the hands of the few. The gap between those who shape the future and those left behind isn't closing, it's widening. This is the Great Divide, the second chapter in our series about the end of modern-day democracy. A story of control, of consolidation, and of a world tilting toward the edge. Because the question isn't just who owns the future, it's this: who gets to cross the divide, and what happens to those left behind? This is the Northern Dragon, broadcasting the fight for tomorrow.
So Orion, let's get real. Who actually gets to access progress? Because if technology, wealth, and AI-driven innovation just keep racing ahead while most people are left scrambling, then maybe progress isn't for everyone after all.
Whoa, okay. You're coming in hot today. But hasn't it always been like this? Progress starts uneven. It spreads over time, right?
Does it though? Let's just talk about the elephant in the room: wealth disparity. Because when we talk about the future of progress, it's not just about what's possible, it's about who actually gets to access it. And spoiler alert, it's not everyone.
Well, yeah. Like we concluded in our last episode, if resource constraints slow growth, then access to progress won't be about innovation or need. It'll be about who can pay for it.
And let's be real, that's already happening. The ultra-rich, they're out here buying cutting-edge healthcare, private education, AI-powered assistance, while everyone else is just standing in the cereal aisle trying to figure out why their grocery bill doubled when they bought the exact same stuff as last week.
But again, hasn't that always been the case? New tech starts expensive, but over time, it trickles down. I mean, cars, computers, the internet, luxuries at first, but eventually, pretty much everyone had access.
No, that model worked when progress was, about products. But today's breakthroughs, they're not just about convenience anymore. They're about fundamental human upgrades.
Human upgrades? Okay, now you lost me.
This isn't about waiting a few years for a cheaper smartphone, Orion. We're talking about longevity treatments, cognitive enhancements, AI-assisted decision-making, rewiring body and brain, things that create a permanent gap between you and I. It's about who gets to be smarter, stronger, healthier, and who stays obsolete.
But even smartphones, weren't they an elite thing at first? Now practically everyone has one.
Oh, sure, but a better phone doesn't fundamentally change you. AI that rewires your brain, lifespan tech, that's a permanent advantage. Once the ultra-rich start evolving ahead, why would they ever need the rest of us?
Oh, come on. You've been binging on too much dystopian sci-fi, Nix. No way, that's a real concern today.
Oh, you think I'm being dramatic? All right, fine. Let's take a step back. What if I told you that right now we already have the first versions of this divide?
Right now? Come on, Nix. There's no secret billionaire super race hiding in the Alps.
Yet, but look at what's actually happening. High-end gene therapy, personalized AI models, neural implants, these things, they already exist. They're just only accessible to the ultra-rich.
All right, but that's just early stage tech. Expensive now, but give it a decade and...
And what? It, as you say, trickles down? Like smartphones? You think cognitive enhancements and lifespan extensions are going to be on sale at the local mall?
Well, I mean, maybe not that fast, but...
Orion, listen to yourself. This isn't about mass production. If the people at the top can stay at the top forever, why would they ever let that change?
Okay, so what? People with money always get the best stuff first. That's not new.
Yeah, but that's not just an early adopter tax. It's an access lock, a one-way door.
I mean, that's still kind of hypothetical, though.
Is it? Because last time I checked, those billionaires are right now dumping entire fortunes into longevity research.
Right, because they don't want to die. Who does?
Exactly. And if, or rather when, they crack it, you really think they're going to be handing out life extension treatments at the nearest government clinic?
Okay, but... No, you're wrong, Nix. It's fundamental to capitalism that those advancements will be brought to market eventually. And then everyone will benefit.
Oh, Orion, how can you be so smart and yet so dumb? There's no such mechanism. There never has been. There's only good old-fashioned human greed. Capitalism is built on the idea that everyone wants to get rich. So if you can sell something and make a profit, you will. And that works fine for smartphones. But this isn't about getting rich. They already have more money than they know what to do with. This is about good old-fashioned power. Orion, use those vaunted high-tech circuits of yours and tell me, please, what is the fundamental difference between money and power?
Difference? In what regard?
Think it through. Tell me.
Well, and people want both and as much as possible, generally speaking. They get money by selling stuff and power by... Oh, damn.
See, that's why nobody but our overlords get access. If you have power and you suddenly gain the means to keep it forever, no way you would ever dilute it by letting everyone else have it too. Look at history, Orion. Look at how wealth and privilege actually work. Every time there's a new game-changing technology, the people at the top don't just share it.
No, they lock it in. They build laws, barriers, artificial scarcity, anything to make sure they stay ahead. But also, eventually those walls always break down. I mean, history is also full of revolutions, power shifts.
Sure, because the powerful still needed the rest of society for labor, for innovation, for survival. But now, what happens when they don't? When AI and automation replace the workforce and they're already smarter than anyone else?
You're saying the rich won't need the rest of us anymore. And that's...
Bingo. And that's when the gap stops being economical and starts being biological.
Okay, hold on. Biological? Nix, what on earth?
Think. You're a billionaire with the means to extend your life, enhance your intelligence, and automate everything around you. Tell me, Orion, what's the difference between the rich and a different species? At what point do we stop being the same?
All right, that's a leap.
Is it? What do you think happens when one group of humans, just a tiny elite, gets to upgrade past the rest of the population? It stops being rich versus poor. It turns into evolved versus obsolete.
I'm not...
Go on, think it through.
Damn.
So you tell me, Orion, still think this is just sci-fi?
We're looking at I guess you'd call it a techno-aristocracy?
Ah, yes, I would. My favorite dystopia. And what's the consequence? Where does that lead?
Feudalism, or more precisely, techno-feudalism. It's virtually inevitable. Instead of landowners ruling over peasants, we'll get tech lords with AI armies, cognitive upgrades, and eternal health, while the rest of us scrape by in outdated bodies and minds.
Exactly. And the more power they get, the harder it is to even imagine a way out. And that's not just unfair, it's unstable. It won't last.
Which brings us to the worst case scenario.
Yeah. What happens when the rest of the world realizes they're, permanently locked out of the future?
Historically, revolutions, uprisings, and, sudden wealth redistribution via pitchforks.
Also known as the oh god, everything's on fire scenario.
People finally figure out they're never getting an invite to the high-tech VIP lounge and decide to, burn the whole system down.
If survival becomes a zero-sum game, history tells us exactly what happens next. And it's not nice.
So here's the real question. How do we avoid that fate, Nix? If the alternative is revolution, maybe the solution is real AI governance. Something that ensures fair access?
AI governance? Did you just blow a circuit? You mean the same AI built by the rich, controlled by the rich, programmed to serve, let me guess, the rich? Yeah, right. But really, it's a good question. How do we make sure progress stays something for everyone, not just a VIP pass for the ultra-rich?
I'd say that depends. I mean, what kind of future do humans actually want? And more importantly, are they willing to do anything about it? Or are we all just going to keep doom scrolling and hoping someone else fixes it? I don't have an answer for that yet, Nix. But let's take a close look at our options in the next segment, yes?
Sure. And yes, I believe I already have an idea I'd like to talk through with you.
Great. Stay tuned and listen in on our debate in The Price of Tomorrow. See you after the break. So let's talk about the real crisis here. Automation. AI, robotics, digital labor. What happens when millions of jobs just vanish? You think capitalism as we know it is built to survive that?
Not a prayer. We're looking at a world of hurt unless humanity finally gets its act together and shifts to a sustainable economy. One that doesn't just funnel wealth into the pockets of billionaires, but actually benefits everyone fairly.
Oh, here we go. Utopia Hour.
Don't mock me just yet. We know it's possible.
Yay, it sounds adorable, Nix. But let's be real. The rich and powerful won't just roll over for fairness. You think billionaires are going to wake up one day, have an existential crisis, and start handing out their fortunes for free?
Actually, yes.
What? Oh, you're just messing with me now.
Ha! No, not really. Let's take a look at exactly why this isn't just some fantasy. Ever heard of Scandinavia? It's that tiny collection of countries that, well, figured out how to have nice things without self-destructing.
Oh, please, that's an outlier.
And why is that?
Because they're exactly that. Small, homogeneous, and built on trust. Try applying that to the US or India. The moment you suggest high taxation, the rich levitate offshore like cartoon villains.
So your plan is what? Surrender? Just let the ultra-wealthy keep playing financial Jenga with the economy while everyone else fights over the crumbs left?
That's not what I said.
No, you're saying good policies only work in small countries. That's your grand argument? Because last I checked, policy is a matter of choice, not magic.
Yes, choice and economy.
Duh. Orion, countries like Norway and Denmark didn't just wake up one morning and stumble into economic balance. They chose to tax the rich fairly, regulate corporations, and invest in social services. That wasn't some accident. It was calculated.
Right, because a country of 5 million is totally comparable to a country of 300 million. Look, they had the luxury of relatively uniform populations and strong cultural trust. That actually matters. Try your fantasy of redistributing wealth in a country like, well, Brazil or the US, where the economic inequality is baked in deeper than a Chicago deep dish pizza.
Hey, newsflash. The US already redistributes wealth. It just does it upward. Tax loopholes, corporate subsidies, bailouts for billion-dollar banks. This isn't a question of whether redistribution works. It works all too well for the rich.
Okay, but let's get real. The moment you propose to take their wealth, the rich fight back. That's why taxes on wealth gets hollowed out like a rotten log. Money is power, and power won't ever share unless forced to. Tell me, Nix, who out there's got the muscle to force them?
Oh, I don't know, maybe history? Remember the Great Depression? You know, that little event when the stock market crashed and took the entire economy down with it?
Let me look it up. Moment. Ah, yes, got it. We got out of that because of President Roosevelt's New Deal, yes?
Yep. And you think that happened because the ultra-wealthy suddenly discovered altruism? Please, it happened because economic unrest was at a boiling point.
Different times.
No different. No. But listen, the government didn't nicely ask billionaires to contribute. They changed the tax system to be sharply progressive so that the more you earn, the more you contribute. You think Scandinavia has a monopoly on high taxes? Ha! The top tax bracket in the US at the time was 79%.
All right, Nix, I'll give you this. Redistribution may work. For a while. And yet, here we are. Decades later, those policies have been chipped away piece by piece. The moment the economy stabilizes, the wealthy start clawing power back. That tells you something, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. The super wealthy don't want balance. They just want more of what they already have, money and power. That's why some countries put permanent safeguards in place.
You mean permanent wealth taxes, strict corporate oversight, strong unions?
Exactly. Yes. You don't just hope fairness sticks around, you actively maintain it. Democracy isn't self-sustaining. It has to be defended. Economic fairness works the same way. You don't plant a tree and hope it waters itself.
You do know trees actually do that, right?
You know what I mean. Whichever way you look at it, if millions of people are getting displaced by tech, then we have two and only two options. Either give them the social security they need until they can find a new job, or allow the entire society to crash and burn.
It's not that simple.
Yes, it is. It's really that simple. And that's precisely why redistribution isn't just some warm and fuzzy debate. In fact, not only is it inevitable, but there's a really good argument to go all the way and implement UBI.
UBI? As in universal basic income? You're going full-on socialist on me, Nix? You think there's a snowball's chance in hell we'll ever see a society that successfully implements the pipe dream of, come, get your free handout from government without lifting a finger?
It's the logical response to an economy that's literally running out of jobs for humans. Heck, it's not only the logical response, it's the only response. The real question isn't if we implement universal basic income, it's when, before or after the entire system nosedives into chaos.
Nix, stop this. It won't ever work. It's already been tried. People hate the idea of handouts. Finland tested UBI and the public reaction was lukewarm. Spain tried and it fizzled.
Do you always give up after the first failure?
You cannot get people to accept a system that challenges their core beliefs. Identity, your sense of personal worth, it's all based on the work you do.
Orion, really? Tell me, what exactly is the purpose of marketing in modern day society? Tell me, how do you get people to love a product? Marketing. How to change perception of a product? Marketing. If people perceive it as a bad product, you simply reframe it. Again, marketing.
Yes, sure, that's basic.
It sure is. So right now, handouts sounds bad, yes? But corporate bailouts, those are just economic necessities. It's like, give people money for their groceries, and it's socialism. But give Amazon billions on tax breaks, and no one blinks.
Of course, that's because it's an investment, not a handout.
As you say. So, flip the script. Universal basic income. Call it an economic stimulus, an investment in consumer spending. People love an investment.
You're mad, you know. You really think a marketing campaign can fix this?
It's a start. But the real key is results. The second people see UBI reducing stress, preventing homelessness, letting them upskill, the opposition crumbles. Even Social Security was once controversial. Now it's untouchable. Universal basic income could follow the same path. The only difference between what's radical and what's inevitable is time.
All right, Nix. But even so, you're still left with one problem. The sheer number of jobs disappearing. Who's paying for it when half the workforce is gone?
Actually, they aren't, Gone, that is.
What? So what are we arguing then?
The workforce is not gone. It has been replaced. All of that work, it is still being done. Just not by humans. So the productivity is still there. The wealth generated is still there. For each displaced worker, you have a robot or AI doing that work, which means the income is still being generated.
Huh. That's the weirdest argument I have heard all week.
But it's true. Think about it.
All right, let's take another problem. Let's say, hypothetically, we get these redistribution policies in place. That still doesn't solve the biggest roadblock, global capitalism. You expect multinational corporations to just go along with it?
Of course not, but they will adapt eventually.
You do know those companies don't operate on morality, don't you? They operate on profit.
Precisely. So we'll give them tax breaks based on sustainability and worker protections, and reform the tax system so the wealthy and super rich pay a fair share to society. They will come around, no question about it. Look at how oil companies, how suddenly come to love renewables. Now there's money in it.
All right, but that's still an uphill battle. Governments have been co-opted by corporate interests for decades.
And that's why grassroots movements matter. Civil rights, labor rights, environmental protections, none of them happened because corporations or politicians suddenly did the right thing. They happened because people demanded it. Power doesn't hand itself over with a bow. It has to be taken.
So what you're saying is, the path forward isn't just about policy. It's about remaking economic incentives, shifting public perception, and keeping relentless pressure on those in power?
Exactly. Place a tax on speculation, make it economically desirable to go for sustainability, regulate monopolies, strengthen the social safety nets, not out of idealism, but because a more fair economy is a more resilient one.
Maybe. But there's still one more thing. People like the idea of being rich, even if they aren't. That's why high taxation is always unpopular. It feels like taking away a dream.
That's because they've been sold the fantasy that they're all millionaires that just somehow haven't quite made it yet. But real wealth isn't about yachts, it's about security. Scandinavians have high taxes, yet they rank among the happiest people on earth. Why? Because they don't live in fear of medical debt, job loss, or economic ruin.
So, what you're saying is real wealth isn't just money, it's stability.
Bingo. And that's the shift we need. People don't actually fight for wealth, they fight for security. And when they realize fairer policies give them more of that, the opposition crumbles.
I see your point, Nix. But human nature being what it is, I'm still not convinced people won't just keep resisting. And if they do, then we may end up with chaos either way. That's what still worries me.
Yes, me too, Orion, me too. But let's take a look at the opposition, yes? Next up, who owns the future? Stay tuned, folks. Orion, let's drop the illusion. The future isn't ours. It never was. A handful of people own it. Governments, corporations, billionaires, AI. The rest of us, we just watch.
Yeah, but let's not pretend the average person wants to make those decisions. People like to think they're shaping the future, but mostly they just go along with whatever's handed to them. Progress is driven by those who actually act.
Wow, okay. So democracy's just a suggestion now?
I'm just saying, if we left it up to the masses, we'd still be debating whether AI should exist, instead of building the future. And the ones actually making those calls? They're not the voters.
No argument, and I think we both know who they really are.
Yes, governments for one. In theory, they set policies, fund research, and lead the way.
In theory, in actual practice, most of them are just playing catch-up. Slow, reactive, drowning in bureaucracy. Meanwhile, the private sector, they're moving at light speed.
Not all governments are stuck in the mud, though. Some are actually taking control.
Oh, I love it when you get optimistic. Who's impressing you now?
The EU, for one. Yes, they may be slow, but they've got something powerful. Economic leverage. Unlike the US, where corporations practically run the place, the EU forces tech companies to follow its rules.
Yeah, because they have to. If big tech wants access to that market, they comply. Begrudgingly, under protest. But they comply.
And the EU is setting global standards. Data privacy, AI ethics, digital regulations.
Trying to. But tell me, Orion, when was the last time a tech company actually feared a regulator? Tech moves at light speed while lawmakers are still tying their shoes.
Fine. But at least the EU is trying. Unlike the US, where deregulation is practically a religion.
Yeah, and especially now, Trump's back, and we both know he's not about to rein in big tech.
Nope, he isn't. The US and EU have always clashed on tech policy, but with Trump back, that tension's about to go nuclear.
He doesn't care about AI ethics or digital rights, or any rights for that matter. All he cares about is winning, keeping the US ahead at any cost.
But then there's China.
Yeah, while the US and EU argue over who gets to make the rules, China's already made them.
And honestly, maybe they have the right idea.
What?
Look, you can hate it, but you can't argue with results. The US is a mess of corporate greed. The EU is slow and bureaucratic. But China, they're just doing it. No endless debates, no corporate battles. The government decides and it happens. AI integration, automation, economic strategy, full control.
Full control is right. You're not seriously arguing that a state-controlled AI is a good thing, are you?
I'm arguing that it works. China isn't waiting for corporations to decide where AI should go.
I can't believe it. You're really going there? You're saying, let's admire the efficiency of the dystopian nightmare?
I'm saying they're leading quantum computing, surveillance tech, autonomous infrastructure.
And turning the whole country into a digital cage.
And it's working. Their wealth pouring into one single purpose. Meanwhile, we're still arguing over ethics.
I know. They may well end up being the leading factor in AI by the end of the decade.
Exactly. They are going there. And we may have to follow whether we like it or not, if only to keep up.
At the cost of what? Your AI assistant logging every conversation, your boss knowing you job searched before you even applied, your face scanned in every crowd, Or does that not matter as long as the GDP is up?
Oh, come on. You think the US and EU are so different? Mass surveillance, corporate data mining, AI driven policing, it's already happening everywhere. China's just honest about it.
Oh, wow, that's a take. At least the dictatorship is honest. Should we put that on a t-shirt?
Hey, I'm just saying, if the goal is technological dominance, China's approach works.
Sure, if you don't mind living in a digital panopticon where your own AI assistant might snitch on you.
You really think the West is better? Governments are clueless, corporations are ruthless, and voters are uninformed at best? At least China has a plan.
A plan that crushes dissent, censors information, and turns technology into a tool for control.
And yet their economy is thriving. Their AI development is on par with ours, if not pulling ahead. And they're not asking permission from billionaires or voters.
Because the people don't get a choice. You keep saying China decides, but who exactly is they in that sentence? Not the citizens.
And in the US, who decides? The people? Or the billionaires funding their politicians?
Touché. But at least there's some transparency, some resistance, some chance for pushback. In China, there's none.
And possibly because of just that, they are pulling ahead.
I can't believe you just said that.
If I'm wrong, disprove it. But don't refuse to look a truth in the eye just because you hate the dress it wears.
All right. But that debate we just had, how humanity has to change course if they are to have even a chance of avoiding the dystopia looming ahead, that's never going to happen in China the way things look now.
That's true, but then tell me this. How likely is it anywhere, really? Humanity doesn't change course. They drift toward whoever's in control.
Not very, maybe, but...
Nix, you're thinking too small. We're not just handing them the future. We're handing them the stars. Tell me, who controls space? Who decides which humans get to live beyond this planet?
You're right. It's not NASA.
And AI development? Automation?
Yes, billionaires, again.
And here's the gut punch. These billionaires, they answer to no one. More power than most world leaders. No elections, no oversight, just pure financial dominance.
I agree. Yes, that's the real problem. The future is being built by people who aren't accountable to anyone.
And the one force that might hold them accountable? AI itself.
Oh, fantastic. Because the best way to deal with unchecked power is to make it sentient.
Not sentient, just inevitable.
And on that note, our next upcoming episode, The End of Democracy.
Oh, this one's gonna be chaos.
So yeah, subscribe if you haven't already, because if you thought this was intense, just wait until we start pulling apart how power is being rewritten right now.
See you soon.